The former senior civil servant who was described with an unmentionable four-letter word in Dominic Cummings' evidence to the COVID inquiry turned the tables on his Downing Street operation today in hers. And how? Helen MacNamara said there was a macho culture when the country needed thoughtful decision-making. Officials were so overconfident that Britain could cope with the pandemic that they were laughing at the Italians where the virus started taking hold. That overconfidence reached nuclear levels, Miss MacNamara said, in the case of Health Secretary Matt Hancock. She agreed that Mr Hancock said things that later turned out not to be true, repeatedly. And as for his cricketing analogy, well, you'll want to immediately scrub that from your mind.
He was, next to the Prime Minister, the second most high-profile figure dealing with the pandemic.
I'm going to level with you.
Yet former Health Secretary Matt Hancock was today branded someone who couldn't be trusted in the biggest crisis in this country's recent history.
Could you give us your full name, please?
It's Helen MacNamara.
His accuser, the most senior female civil servant at the time, was asked this.
That Mr Hancock regularly was telling people things that they later discovered weren't true.
Yes.
In Helen MacNamara's written evidence, this line. The Cabinet was told time and time again by the Health Secretary that we had plans in place. Yet those plans were never seen, and Miss MacNamara's evidence revealed this extraordinary picture of what she called nuclear levels of confidence when she asked Mr Hancock whether he needed extra support, and he said this.
He reassured me that he was, quote, loving responsibility, and to demonstrate this, took up a batsman's stance outside the cabinet room and said, they bowl them at me, I knock them away.
I'm trying to explain just how jarring some of that was.
Around the middle of March, when COVID was spreading rapidly, Helen MacNamara described a sense of dawning panic, running into the Prime Minister's study and saying, I think this country is heading for a disaster. I think we're going to kill thousands of people.
It was a sense of foreboding, like I hope nobody sitting in that office ever has that again, actually. It was a very, very scary experience, but I felt that it wasn't in any doubt in my mind at that point that we were heading for a total disaster.
Helen MacNamara's tone was measured and forensic today. The picture that she quietly painted of Downing Street was anything but sexist, ego-driven, with a macho overconfidence displayed towards the pandemic and towards women who wanted to speak up, with a Prime Minister who didn't even understand the science. As for Dominic Cummings, who described her in venomous, expletive-ridden WhatsApps in evidence yesterday, she had this to say.
It's horrible to read, but it is both surprising and not surprising. It's disappointing to me that the Prime Minister didn't pick him up on the use of some of that violent and misogynistic language.
The current Prime Minister, Chancellor of course at the time, told ITV News the culture now is different.
My Downing Street is a place where I think people are not just happy to work, they feel fulfilled, but that's the kind of culture that I want to create in any work environment.
Before she left, Helen MacNamara stressed what she hopes is that the inquiry will ensure collectively that things are done better next time. What she revealed about government suggested they could hardly have been done worse. Romilly Weeks, News at 10.